Good morning, Stephanie.
Hi, Clarissa.
I'm so happy that we get to have this conversation. You and I have known each other for a few years now. When you moved your whole life from Fredericton to Miramichi, but you're somebody who I've gotten to know quite well, and the fact that you have the significant history of business, but it hasn't always been smooth, has it?
No, you can say that.
Yeah.
It hasn't been smooth since my first year in business, actually.
Right. So maybe let's just talk about this. So maybe just like tell our listeners, kind of what your business was back then, and then how it's kind of morphed into today.
Sure. So well, I'm one of those people that goes 100% all in on anything and everything. So when I start to tell this little bit of my story, just know that probably most people wouldn't do this. And I honestly wouldn't advise this to people well, I guess it would be almost 20 years ago now that I went and studied massage therapy. And so this was me as post university deciding, okay, I want a new career. I'd had some injuries and I got treated with massage therapy, decided I'm going to go back to school and become a massage therapist. While in school, decided I'm going to open my own clinic without a single client, with no real experience other than what I did in school. And then said, I'm just going to open this clinic. I'm going to find a space. I'm going to renovate it while I'm going to school. And then I'm going to start opening my clinic day one as soon as I'm finished. And that's what I did. But to share expenses, I started with someone who wasn't a business partner, but we just split the cost of rent. And a year later, I realized, well, this isn't quite working because I want to be able to teach my yoga classes. It's also part of my background. I wanted to be able to teach my yoga classes within my clinic space. So a year into it, I was going to move into a bigger space, invited the other therapist to come with me. And I don't know what happened, but things happen in business and you don't always want to go into business with your friends. So she tried suing me, saying that I couldn't leave. So there I was facing this lawsuit that went nowhere in my first year of business, not knowing what I was doing. So you could say that from the beginning, I've had challenges. The challenge of starting something and kicking it off from literally nothing to that situation. And from there, once I moved, got that behind me, that was really no big deal in the end, but quite stressful at the time. Then I moved in and developed a multidisciplinary health clinic. So there was a bunch of different types of therapists, from physio to psychotherapists to osteopaths, other massage therapists, and a yoga studio with multiple teachers. So that moved to different locations over time as it grew and evolved. And then I started getting pain. The pain I had started really significantly following my third time being rear-ended.
That would do it.
That would do it. So I started with quite a bit of neck pain. So if you can imagine, as a massage therapist, which I worked in this clinic anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week. And that, if we're dealing with entrepreneurs listening to this, they understand that's what we do. That's what an entrepreneur has to do. So imagine, as a massage therapist, your head is down and you're working physical labor with your arms all the time. So my neck was taking on a lot of strain. And fast forward 2.5 to 3 years after this rear ending, I was starting to lose feeling in my hands. I was starting to lose a lot of mobility in my head and my neck. I was losing sleep. I was getting more and more pain. And it just got to such a point that my doctor kept weaning me down on how much I could actually massage clients, to the point where I was forced into early retirement. So that being forced into retirement for massage meant that if my income wasn't coming in, I couldn't sustain the rent on this massive facility. So I had the stress of all these employees that I was responsible for their income. I had people renting space. I was responsible for them. I had all my clients that I had built up over 18 years. And I had to just stop everything overnight and close the doors. And that was probably the toughest thing I ever faced, for sure, because I lost everything and lost my health and lost my identity. I felt like I don't have a clue what to do. It was not a good place.
So if we stop there for a second and, and talk about like the lessons in that, you did make a lot of choices in the early days to push yourself forward and become your own boss and make your own path. But, with everything coming to a halt, as you say, your business, but your health, and, what being a person that's all in, all the time, what did that look like for you at that time? Did you just get up the next day and brush it off, or was there a point where was there a point where you kind of just withdrew into yourself to give some thought to what was next?
Well, first I sat and I cried for a long time because I lost everything. And then I would cry because I had so much pain. I had ruptured discs in my neck, and I was supposed to go off to Germany for a surgery that I ended up being able to put off and not have to do. And I healed my own body essentially. But there was a lot of sadness. There was a lot of grief of all the different things I had lost. I was also newly divorced, and I had a 4-bedroom home by myself, and I didn't know how I was going to pay it. So I was under insurmountable stress at the time. And I honestly, I'll 100% transparent here. I went into a major pit of depression, and my doctor is quite concerned. Like, I have to put you off work, but what is this doing to your mental health? And so it was a big wake up call in a lot of ways. And I had a good long pity party for a few months, to keep myself surviving. I had to do what I had to do. So I used up all of my life savings to keep my house, which I don't recommend people doing. I should have sold it. I had too much pride. It was like the only thing left I had, right? Was that house, that thing I bought. But it's just a thing.
And it was your safe zone, I suppose, too, right?
Totally.
It was that place that you could go home to cry.
Totally. And it was the only thing that hadn't changed. Like, this was my one source of stability. So I did what I had to do and kept it. I figured things out, took in people to rent rooms, put a basement apartment in, and got some income, did things like that where I was able to pivot, right? And figure out, okay, well, I physically couldn't work. So what will I do?
Right.
And so I had to look at not only how do I change my business philosophy and what do I do, or do I get a job again? And the thought of being employed after that many years just freaked me out. But the big thing was I had to get my priorities straight. Because while I call myself an all-in person, I was really only all in one place.
Okay.
I was only all in my business. I wasn't all in my relationship because I was divorced. Obviously, that didn't work. I wasn't all in with my health, or I would have been paying attention to all the signals that I had. So it's just this ironic, I was there supporting everybody else improve their health and wellness, but I was putting myself at the bottom of the priority list.
Right.
I wasn't all in with my family. I wasn't present at anything because I was always working. So I had to get my priorities straight and say, okay, let's just calm down a little bit here and look at this whole opportunity as a gift that I had time to sit and reflect on what really mattered and what was actually going to be fulfilling. Like, not just your career is what should fulfill you, is what I now believe. But I had this philosophy that I just had to go and, I don't know, prove myself or what it was. But I only had one point of focus, really.
And then you kind of morphed from there. You started looking at other opportunities, and what I find really interesting, I know there's a lot of years there, but what I find most interesting when I follow you on social media or when we chat is how, all those lessons that you learned, or, the professional development and personal development that you do somehow came back to tap you on the shoulder when we went into the pandemic, and you just had this kind of, I don't know, I want to use the word epiphany, but maybe it wasn't, but you just kind of were like, oh, like, I see an opportunity here, right? So, and all of a sudden you moved your business, you came, because you stopped teaching yoga for a while, correct? And then
I couldn't move.
Right. And then you kind of got rid of it all, like you were like, I'm going to set that over there. And then, and then all of a sudden it came back around. So what lessons from that time in your life, which was, as you described, like a pit of depression, what lessons were you able to bring with you as you moved to where you are today?
My biggest lesson of all is what I now repeat sort of ad nauseum, I'm sure, and the kids probably think I'm crazy, but I'm constantly saying obstacles are opportunities. So when you face an obstacle, when you're head on in the middle of the hurricane, you can't see the opportunity. You're too deep in it. it's not possible. And it's like someone saying everything happens for a reason, and it irritates the person. So like, this does not happen for a reason. But in the end, when you have hindsight, when you can look back and say, look, every hard thing I've gone through in my life, I'm on the other side of it now. I'm better for it. I'm more resilient for it because I learned from that process. So it doesn't matter to me. I hope I don't have to face those kind of things again, but I know that I can. I know what I've overcome. And I know when I face an obstacle, it's actually an opportunity waiting to be discovered. So for me to realize, okay, so I can't teach yoga because I can't even move my body. I would take up to an hour to get out of bed in the morning because I had so much pain. Obviously, not going to teach yoga. Obviously, I can't massage anyone. Obviously, I can't function. I shouldn't even drive a car. I was on so much pain medication. So my opportunities for doing something were extremely limited. My full-time job became take care of yourself. So I did that and then looked at, okay, I need to figure out how can I still work within health and wellness? How can I still offer things of really good value to my clients I already have? And how can I do something that's not going to destroy me? So even if I'm working a lot of hours, it's not going to be 60, 80 hours. I'm not going to have the burden of the overhead of rent. I won't have the burden of the overhead of employees and their families and income that they need. I won't have all those stresses. So I completely shifted into direct marketing or direct sales with network marketing, shifted into that, thought it was crazy at first, but I realized I can do this. For me, it was the right fit because this is the honest truth. I could do it from my bed, from my phone when I couldn't move. And there's not a heck of a lot of jobs that you can do that.
Right. Yes.
Right. I could still get information out to people and share and market myself based on the lessons I was learning about myself and the importance of self-care, which was exactly what I had been promoting, but neglecting myself. So by being honest and transparent and looking at what can I do that could still be complementary, that was that pivot.
Right.
The yoga piece was different because I had students that had asked me for years if I would teach yoga classes online. And I was super against it because I couldn't see them and I couldn't give them the cues that would help them with that, whatever injury they had or whatever was going on. And another big financial piece of my business was I would travel across Canada and to Australia and I would train people to be yoga teachers. So 10-day intensive courses with groups of people in front of me in person.
Right.
How am I going to do a teacher training when I can't move and I can't go anywhere and I couldn't afford to travel? So not only did that first pivot into direct sales change my life because I actually could build an income from home, not have those expenses, et cetera, like I mentioned, and not be wrecking my body anymore.
Right.
But then when COVID hit, I just thought two things. One, I am like the queen of the pivot. I can pivot with the best of them at this point. Like, oh, coming at me again? Here we go. Okay, what do we do now? And the other was to realize I had a friend say to me one day, I was talking about how desperate I felt for society because I knew that I had gained these tools of meditation, mindfulness, breathing. When I couldn't move, those were the only things I could do, control my mind, right? And I knew that people felt really out of control. And I knew what really out of control felt like. So I had boatloads of empathy for society facing COVID. And I had a friend say to me, well, you have so many things that you do and have that you can offer. Surely there's got to be a way that you can do something for people. And that just turned the light bulb on for me. That's all I needed to hear. So it started with me guiding free yoga or free meditation practices every morning at 9 o'clock, I think it was, on my Facebook feed. And I just put it out there. I'm going to do this. I know people are having their mental health taxed like crazy. No one knows what to do. We're all at home anyway. Let's get online and do this together. So I did that for a few weeks. And then I thought, why don't I do this like in a bigger scale and in a way that could actually bring me a little bit of money, not a lot, because I also didn't want to take a lot of money from people when their expenses were probably higher and their income lower. So that shifted me into teaching yoga classes in an online platform. Took the leap, thought, why not? I'll figure it out. And got all those students back that I had in Fredericton. So here I am in a totally different city, still teaching the students that I'd had some of them for 15 years.
Yeah.
And now they're back in my classes in a virtual space. So
And
rebuilding
that's
that.
and that's what happened in the pandemic in the beginning, right? Everything was being thrown at you. All these businesses were having to shut their doors, and you know, they could take some time and we've heard stories about that, them taking some time to say, oh well, I guess, this is it for me. But then, then that resurgence of, no, there's something I can do, right? And so again, like you say, obstacles become opportunities for you. And, not that you were, that you were, in people's faces saying, oh, I have something for you, but you were there at a time when people just needed a little bit of something. And then you realize that people needed a lot of something, right? And that's
Yeah.
that's kind of how that morphed into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, so I have personally 9 friends who own yoga studios who had to close during COVID. And that devastates me because I know how gross that is to have to do. And so because of that, I knew that there were people who not only needed to see somebody else kind of leading from the front and taking charge and doing virtual classes, just going with whatever you have to go with. And then I realized people needed to slow down
Mhm.
like I did. So the unique training that I have is I teach people in yin yoga, which is very mindful, very slow, very gentle on the body in a way, and very mindful oriented and accessible to everybody. And it really helped me during when I could start moving again with my own physical challenges that I was having. So I thought these teachers, they should still be able to take on some trainings to give them better tools to become maybe a more confident teacher, and then go out and have something new to offer and see how it works in a virtual platform.
Right.
So then I decided I'm going to pivot and do these yoga teacher trainings on Zoom. It might be a nightmare, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I started with a 3-day course in the summer, and then I did a 10-day course just a couple months ago. And I've got other courses coming up that are all happening through Zoom. And while it's not exactly the same with being in person, what I've allowed is some people to start taking a yoga teacher training journey that can change their life, but also gives them an opportunity to now make money.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm still
Yeah.
feeding into the economy with helping other people have a resource to use to
Mhm.
make a bit of an income for themselves when maybe they lost everything else.
That's right. Now, what do you say to people who, think, because it's a big misconception out there, whether you're building a bricks and mortar business or you're building an online business, people think you need stuff and you need money and you need tools. And what do you say to those people? Because I mean, I've seen you do your daily yoga and I've seen you do your daily meditation, and you invite people right into the reality of your home when your partner's there, your kids are there, your dog is right on the yoga mat with you. What do you say to those people who say, I can't possibly do this because I'm not ready or I don't have the tools or their money, to do that? What's your advice to those people?
Well, first off, it's mindset. You have a choice.
Mhm.
Whether you're ready or not is in your mind. So you have to decide, do you want to be ready? Because if you want to be ready, just say yes and do it. You don't need anything. The things, everybody has a cell phone. If you want to
Mhm.
do business online, all you need is that cell phone and Wi-Fi. That can
Mhm.
be at the coffee shop. If you're allowed to go in the coffee shop, get on their Wi-Fi, use theirs. If I held myself back because I didn't have a perfect studio space, like you're looking at my studio space.
Mhm.
That's my living room. You,
Mhm.
that's it. My office is in my living room and my yoga studio is in front of the fireplace and television.
Mhm.
I move the coffee table out of the way. People are in my home. Other people live here, but you know what? There's nothing perfect. There's
Right.
no perfect situation. I had taken this little thing early on, and they were giving these strategies around creating the ideal online yoga situation from home, and I thought, how ridiculous is that?
Mhm.
I'm not going to find one random wall and paint it all white and put some. I can't. I don't have that luxury of space.
Mhm.
So I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. All people need is me.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm offering yoga, they just need to see me move.
Yeah.
They need to hear my voice, and I need a phone to do that. You can prop it up against a wall, you can buy a tripod if you need, but you don't need all the extra things. So, minimize the standards of what you think you need to do and just take a step forward
Right.
and see. And if it doesn't work, then change it and do something else.
Yeah. And in a time where things are so in such an upheaval state and, nobody knows what's going to happen, having that raw, authentic, this is me, this is my living room, this is my dog, those are my kids in the background. There's something that's comforting about that to people to say, like, for this hour or this 15 minutes or whatever it is, I can just like, see something that's real and just know that I'm a part of that. Which I
Yeah.
think is so important for a lot of people when we're not able to do what we used to do. So what do you think was, so as you move forward and now we're what, oh my gosh, almost a year into this pandemic, which is crazy to think. Besides, where obstacles come opportunities, what do you think was, another big takeaway for you in looking back your 20 years right up until today with your business? What is one takeaway or one piece of advice that you can offer to the listeners today?
Oh, number one, know why you're doing it.
Mhm.
Why are you doing it? I always hear people like Simon Sinek will say, start with why, know your why. And I always thought that's ridiculous. But I never put it in the perspective of, why do I want to be my own boss? What does that mean to me?
Mhm.
Why am I willing to work all these hours? Why would I want to take on overhead in a situation where maybe I don't need to? What am I trying to prove? But really, what am I trying to do? What is your purpose?
Mhm.
Because if you have enough of a purpose, a reason for sharing, whatever your business is, whether it's you're a carpenter or you're a yoga teacher or you clean houses or you sell cars, whatever your business is, why do you do it?
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a reason why you're doing that and it doesn't mean something to you, then you'll easily let it slide, or you'll let it just take over your life, or you'll let it fall by the wayside. You won't work hard enough for it, or you will work too much for it. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing, but also know what it means to your life. And don't lose sight of what it means for your life, because
Mhm.
your life is not your business,
Right.
it's a part of it. So if you can work it with your life, that's probably the biggest blessing you'll get.
Mhm. Amazing, amazing. And one, when we think of, the life lessons of a lot of entrepreneurs, and we touched on a little bit about wealth and about, so often people, think about entrepreneurs and they think that they're these big, tech-based icons and moguls and like conjures up just such big images. Um, but as an entrepreneur, what does wealth mean to you?
Mm. Wealth, wealth is not money. And you're making me emotional. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Because that's okay. I'm keeping it real. I for so long I thought wealth was money, and it's not. Wealth is your health. And so what is health? Is health meaning that you have your physical health, your mental health, the health of your home space that is safe, your relationships that you're showing up in? And why it makes me emotional is because I put it all on the back burner for so long. I had my priorities so wrong, so wrong. Just trying to prove myself as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as starting from zero, trying to hold on to a reputation that I had built and seeing myself as a failure when really I was a damn rock star
Mhm.
because I got through it and moved past it. It was so eye-opening. And if I could get that message across to people that your wealth is not the money that you bring in from the bank, it's what you get from what you've done. Do you go to bed at the end of the day feeling good about what you did? Not just in your work, but did you show up for your family? Did you show up for yourself? Did you move your body? Did you consciously breathe today? Did you drink enough water? Did you eat good food? Did you put in a good day's work that didn't overtax you? Did you listen to yourself? Like, that's wealth to me. All of it.
Amazing, amazing. Stephanie, thank you so much. I appreciate you as you know, a fellow person in Miramichi. I appreciate you so much as a friend, and I appreciate you having this conversation with me. And I wish you the greatest success with your online online studio. And I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
For sure.
Thank you.